Hey, welcome to the conversation that's as diverse as the dogs that we adore. This is Gun Dogs and Guard Dogs, ultimate podcast dedicated to talking sense about dogs with Les Graham and Ross McCarthy. They work with all breeds of dog, but one specialises in gun dogs and the other prefers guard dogs. No flashy trends or social media hype here, just tried and true knowledge that stands the test of time. They bring you valuable insights and honest conversations about the social predator you share your home with. So here we go. About 45 minutes of gun dogs, guard dogs, good dogs, some maybe not so good dogs, and a dash of gossip.
Oh, here we are again. I'm joined by a special guest. We've got today with us Anna Herzog from Anna Herzog Dog Academy, Sports Academy.
Sports Academy, yeah. Thank you. That's an important little word.
Yeah, Dog Sports Academy. And I'm really excited to find out about FCI Obedience and stuff. And I know Les is as well. But before we do that, can you just give us a quick bit of your background, how you got involved in dogs and how you got to where you are now?
Yes, I mean, like I guess many, I always wanted a dog. I never was allowed a dog when I was really young. My grandparents actually were the only ones when I was a child who took me to all their neighbors. They used to live quite rural, in like a really rural area. So there was a lot of farm dogs, Doberman shepherds, and I just loved spending time with them. They were all like proper farm dogs, so they weren't trained other than, to guard their property. But that was my only experience that I was kind of able to, live as a child. When I got my first dog, I was 15. He was a shepherd German Spitz collie cross. And with him, I was lucky. I went to the local dog training school, and they were amazing. They were fabulous. Learned so much, not just for him, but also in terms of teaching. It's still now, I think, back to that. And there's a lot of things I still do now, like group training structures and some of that kind of stuff. So that was really, really amazing. I did start to help out at that dog training club in their classes, just shadowing, lots and lots of shadowing. And then, just helped out. And that's how I got into the teaching side of it. I'm from a teacher family. My nan is a teacher. My granddad was a teacher. So it's always been a thing of mine, and I've always enjoyed doing that. So, then when the dog finally moved in, I could combine those two things, even though I was obviously quite young, but it was fun. I really enjoyed it even back then. But it was all more behavior and pet training at the time. And I guess a couple of years later, I met someone who at the time did hero to music. And I was like, oh my God, clicker training, that's amazing. So that is now 20 years ago. And I just met the right people at the right time. And after meeting that lady and her showing me all about clicker training and teaching tricks, I met again someone who then, showed me and taught me about obedience. And initially, funny enough, even though I lived in Munich at the time, it was KC Obedience, a really good friend of mine who was preparing her dog for the World Cup that used to be held at Crufts. So she was part of the German team and she was just prepping her dog for it. And I was fascinated by the heel work. I was absolutely loving it. And until then, I dabbled a bit in obedience, like FCI even at the time, to be fair, and a bit of agility and a bit of this, bit of that. Still went to school, so it's not like I had loads of time. Even, I did, but you know what it's like. But yeah, when I then met her and I was watching her train her dog, I fell in love with obedience. And ever since, after especially heel work at the time was turned into my passion, and I just couldn't stop watching it, couldn't stop training it. 2014, I moved to the UK. So between finding out about KC Obedience and moving to the UK, I travelled quite a lot from Munich to the UK and Holland, because those were the only places I could compete at the time, KC Obedience. So there was a lot of driving around really for it. But Leah, she's now 14. We started off in pre-beginner, so the lowest class, and then went all the way to ticket, qualified for Crufts twice. She's an obedience champion, so she won 4 tickets in total. So that was incredible. And, I loved it. And obviously with all of that for me personally, the teaching side of things, I still stuck with pet training for quite a while. I love the whole behavioral side of things. Still now, of course, it does really interested me. But I think for the last maybe 5 years, it sort of switched more and more to dog sports, hence the Dog Sports Academy, Ross. I guess just because I wanted to, a little change. It's just a different vibe. It's not better or worse, but it's just very different. And I really enjoy the detail in dog training and the motivational side of things. I just love all of that. So not just with my own dogs, but also the teaching. So the seminars that I'm running are pretty much all over the world. I've been to New Zealand teaching there, in Australia, a lot in Europe. Used to do it more regularly than now. Now I'm probably going twice a month, which is still quite a lot. But because, of course, now, which I know we're going to come to, we kind of want to grow it in the UK. I'm trying not to travel as much, but I just love the teaching side of things just as much as I love the sport. So it's a nice combo for me. And during COVID, just, how does all the FCI stuff come in? During COVID, I spent some time in Germany during those lockdowns. And friends of mine over there met up when they were allowed to for some training. And I did take my dogs anyway. So I just joined in and I thought, oh, wow, this is actually really cool. And it basically, within those couple of weeks, I just fell in love with the sport. And I knew, of course, of it. Living in Germany, I knew of FCI Obedience, but it was never my passion as much as KC was before. But that has completely changed. And what is it now, 5, 6 years ago, when I then went back to the UK, since then, I've been trying to get it, get it known over here. But, with my own dogs, now that I live here, I have been traveling back to Germany for the last few years to compete in FCI. So, which seems really silly. I seem to be living in the wrong countries for the wrong sports. But that's what I have been doing now. And last year, Knox, my 8-year-old border collie, we were supposed to represent the UK at the FCI Obedience World Championships, first time ever, which unfortunately didn't work out because he injured himself not long before, which was, of course, very frustrating, upsetting. But the most important thing is that now he's sound, and only today I actually messaged the Kennel Club to ask if they would enter me. So if everything goes well, which I'm pretty sure it will, then we might get another chance this year, which would be amazing. Yeah.
Cool. Brilliant. And the Kennel Club have been supportive of you, haven't they?
Yeah, they have.
Wanted you to go and kind of let you do your displays at Crufts and stuff like that. So
yeah. So I guess with the displays at Crufts, I've been running the KC Obedience displays for quite some time now. I think we've done it for 5 years in a row. And I've tried to support them as much as I can with volunteering at the YKC camp and doing that kind of stuff as well. But yes, they have been, I have to say, really supportive. For the last 2 years, we've done FCI Obedience displays at Crufts, and it's also in the planning for next year. So yeah, it's been great, really.
That's cool. It sounds like your life's just fallen into place, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? With all those opportunities that you've had along the way and stuff, just to bring you to kind of where you're at now. It's cool.
Yeah, it actually is like that. I always feel I've met the right people at the right time. It's just been like dung, 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 dung. Really lucky.
Very cool.
What does FCI stand for?
Right. It is Fédération Cynologique Internationale.
Okay.
I've tried to make that sound as French as I can, but it is an international canine organization, I believe, is how it translates. They're in Belgium. That's where they have their HQ, but their headquarters. But they are just really big all over the world. I've been looking at their map, which you can find on their website, of all the countries that are affiliated with them, and it's so many. But basically most countries except the UK. The UK is one of the very few that are not.
And so what is FCI Obedience? Because I've seen obviously your demos and stuff, you have some really different exercises in there.
Whereas I haven't seen it at all.
No.
I've waited for the interview. I said, Ross, I'm not going to do any research. I'm going to ask you instead. So do you still have the same levels? Because I do competitive obedience as well. So do you have the same levels? Do you still, because the KC you've now brought an intro, which is a bit of a
Yes.
I was stewarding intro on Saturday, and it was like, oh my god.
I know.
But, and it was interesting because people were so nervous.
Right.
you know. So Ross, intro, they brought in intro, and it's literally put your dog to heel. Are you ready? Yes. Exercise finished.
Oh,
That's like the first exercise.
Wow.
I know. You get 2 points for that.
Do you know,
So
Les?
do you do like pre-beginners, beginners, novice,
so
A, B, C? Go on,
it's kind of like that, but the structure is a little bit different because the FCI only basically gives you class 1, 2, and 3 in their rules, right? So the FCI rules include a class 1, a class 2, and a class 3.
Mm-hmm.
But on a national level, countries can and most also do add beginner classes, which they can create. So it's, qualifications to get to the official FCI classes. Whether you have, like, for example, a pre-beginner, beginner, and then class 1, class 2, class 3.
Okay.
Or like in Germany, you have to do the BH first, and then the German beginners class, and then class 1, class 2, class 3. So it's
you have to do your BH before FCI Obedience.
In Germany, you do
what?
Wow.
BH. It's a German. Well, it's called Begleithundeprüfung. It's BH. It's like a companion dog test. And in Germany, you have to do that before you are allowed to compete in any, I believe now. There might be some sports where you don't have to do it. But for most dog sports, you have to complete the BH before you compete. But that's only Germany.
Okay, so what's that the equivalent of over here, Ross? Because I don't know that one. Is that the equivalent to the CD? Or is it
no.
gold or
nothing?
No.
It's just walking through crowds and
yes, it's literally you do a set of obedience, like heel work. It doesn't have to be obedience for heel work, but it's a set pattern of like 50 steps, then a turn, then a right turn, left turn, whatever. It's like a set pattern. They've shortened that luckily this year because it used to be so bloody long. On lead, then off lead, and then through a crowd, and then you have like a traffic part where you have to walk, maybe on a path next to a road, and then there's push bikes going past, blah, blah, blah.
Okay. That's a bit like Good Citizen Gold, isn't it? That's a bit
A
like
little bit.
with the Rotties, isn't it? With the Rottie temperament test, Ross. Is that similar?
Yeah, I know obviously for IGP you have to do a BH before.
Yeah, you do.
Stuff, so it's just a lot of people in the UK just do their BH.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that. I think that's a great idea.
What does AD stand for, Anna? You know when they do AD, which is like those endurance tests, like riding your bike and all that. I can't remember.
Yeah, that's a good question. I can't remember that now either.
Don't worry, we'll find it.
Yeah, we find out. Les, it is a good idea in a way, because to some extent you want to test certain foundations before you get people to enter a competition. Yeah. But the BH, personally, I don't think it's a great way to test it because it's so controlled. It's so, the same pattern, and it also depends on where you do it in the country. Sometimes it's really easy. Even dogs that are really, nervous, aggressive towards people, they might still pass if the judge is like, used to these dogs or whatever. And then different parts, when you have an agility judge, they might be completely different in terms of what they want to see. So our plan here in the UK is to, of course, have something like a beginner's class, maybe even a pre-beginner and then a beginner's class. So people have like an easy sort of entrance into the sport, but nothing like the BH. We want to make it sort of like, similar to a class 1, but a lot easier so that people work towards the class 1 of the FCI rules.
In the way beginner's kind of the same as novice, but you've just got a standard in it. Yeah,
exactly. But then I think, in terms of those classes and the progression, the main thing for me is that in the FCI class 1, you already have 10 exercises. Like, it's quite a lot of exercises that you are, in class 1. They are fairly easy, I guess, in some ways for some dogs, for some people, depending on the kind of foundation they've already done. Or if they, for example, have been competing in KC, some of the exercises they will be able to do, and then others, they are very different. But all those exercises get more complex through the classes. So it's not like in KC where you basically have 3 exercises in beginners, and then, in C, you suddenly have, new exercises like DC. and ASSD, and there's no real progression. It's like the same, and now here you go, have 3 new ones. Yeah. And it's also a lot more different exercises, which I love. Everyone who loves like training and being a bit geeky about training and detailed training normally is proper like an FCI person, as I'd say, because there's so much to it, so much to train.
So what kind of things is in the first level? So in level 1.
So in class 1 you have heel work.
On lead and off lead?
Only off lead.
Only off lead, okay.
Yeah, only off lead. It's kind of, I'd say, similar length maybe to like a beginner's class. It's really nice and short, but you have a little bit of fast pace in there.
Oh, nice.
Normally you have 1 turn in fast pace, which is normally a right turn. Yeah, so really short.
Is the heel work less formal than like KC obedience? Is it a more relaxed kind of heel work, or is
it can be
that wrong?
No, you're right. It can be. It's, you know, some people over here, they almost like compare it a little bit to work and trials heel work. And it can be anything in between. You know, FCI judges like, you know, a stylish dog to an extent, as long as it's not an extreme, like back end on the ground kind of head vertical.
Yeah.
But, you know, some dogs are more like, you know, up there and a bit more sort of flicky feet. But you can also get really good marks with a dog that's moving a bit more like, you know, head lower, as long as it's kind of, you know, as long as the dog is correct, as in the dog's straight next to the handler and the dog maintains that position and doesn't change all the time, it's definitely more lenient, 100%. And which is nice, really. It is nice. But you have to swing your arm like in work on trials and IGP. So there's no, you know, sort of like static hand. And there is generally a lot more maybe not, but a few more halts in there. Like there is a lot, it's more choppy than the typical KC test where you just want the dogs to flow and float and go. But I guess the heel work is probably the most similar thing in that way, really, for the lower classes. Then you already have a position under march in class 1, which is 1 out of the 3, and the judge announces the position in the morning, so you don't get to choose. The judge tells you, but it's always the same for the whole class. You have a send away, which is called the box. It is like a box, so it's like a square that you have to send the dog into from 15 meters into this like 3x3 box. The dog has to just end up inside the box. The positions under march, by the way, just come back to that quickly, is just on a straight line. So straight line, halfway, the steward normally announces command, and on that command you have to give the position, carry on walking, and then return to the dog, end of exercise. The box is, in that case, similar. You send the dog, and then you walk to the dog, end of exercise. So it's, you know, it always sort of like ends with you being next to the dog again for all these exercises. Then you have a retrieve over a jump, hurdle, you know, like an open hurdle, like an agility hurdle. You throw the dumbbell, send the dog retrieves it over the jump, which normally like work and trials people are like, I can do that one, that's fine. Then you have send around a cone or a group of cones, which is 10 meters. Group of cones, they have like set formations, like how the cones are put, but it's always a group of cones. You send the dog round, you can choose the direction, and again the dog comes back to heel, end of exercise. You have a recall. The recall in FCI can be into a present, like in KC, but the dogs are also allowed to go straight into heel, either from the left or round you to the right, so there's options. And the recall is like an A recall, always from a down. Then you have DC, distance control, just sit and down. So those 2 positions 4 times, and you're really close to the dog. Like I think it's a 3 meter distance or 5 steps or something like that. 4 changes, dog starts in the down, always sit down, return to your dog. You are allowed to give verbal and hand signal for your DC. But the dog and FCI is, for the DC exercise, is not required to move either their back feet or their front. So that's a bit more, you know, they're more picky, I'd say, than they are in KC. So the dog has to either sort of, go through all exercises with their front feet locked or their back. Okay, so that's already in class 1. And then you have a 1 minute sit stay inside, but only up to 6 dogs. So that is a lot. It doesn't only sound safer like it used to be in KC, it also is a lot safer. Yeah, loads safer. So, I understand when people are worried about stays, because I have done KC stays for years myself. But it honestly is very different. And also in all the, I'm going to say FCI countries, they are very, very strict. They would not allow a dog to compete if they would, for example, as you queue to go into the stay ring, if one dog, has a go at another dog, or even just looks a little bit like, I don't know, prancy, intimidating, they would not be allowed in the ring. So there's a lot more. Yeah, it's really good. They don't really risk it. Of course, it can always happen with stays, but from my experience, they're a lot more careful.
They don't have stays now, do they? In KC Obedience?
No, they've gone.
Completely gone. It's fine that they're gone. People are happy, but why not put something else in instead? Make it a bit more fun.
Yeah.
Well, don't need to, do they? Got FCI Obedience.
Exactly, Ross. Thank you. That's right.
And what's the difference? Is that it for level 1 for class 1 then?
Yes, and then you have like a general impression, which basically is just, the judge looks at things like, is the dog calm and focused overall? Is the dog very barky? Does the handler really have to try hard to keep their dog with them in between the exercises? So as long as your dog looks happy and stays with you, that's normally 4 points. But that is also, one exercise, quote, that you get marked for. But that is it in class 1, yes.
And what's in class 2? Where does that dumbbell redirection thing come in?
I know, that comes in class 2. So you basically don't really have like new exercises come in from class 2, but all the exercises change and progress and develop. So for example, like simple stuff such as the heel work, just increases in duration. You have already in class 1, by the way, 2 steps forward and 2 steps back. But in class 2, you have slow pace, you have longer heel work. You have 2 positions under march in class 2.
Is all of this kind of shouted out by the steward? You don't have to remember. You don't have to learn routines or anything like that. No, it's what we're doing down here. When we have quite a few meetups now for FCI. We do a lot of stewarding because it is quite different to KC. The steward would never say, "Are you ready?" They say to you, "Exercise starts." Right, and then it starts, and a lot of it is command. So the handler has to know what to do on that command. They don't necessarily tell you exactly what to do, like in KC. They would just go command. But it's all on the steward's command, so you don't have to remember anything. And the things like the positions under march, they are always announced in the morning. So as you sign in, you get told, right, it's today, it's a sit and a down or whatever, right? So you know all that before you even enter the ring. But yeah, positions under march is 2 out of 3. Then the box, the sending into a square is a greater distance, so you're just further away. The cones is different. For the cones, you are further away, but it's also combined with the jumps. It's a really cool exercise. You send the dog around the cone and stop them as they're sort of on their way back, right? So they go around the cone, you stop them in a down or a stand. That, again, you're told that in the morning. And then on the steward's command, you almost like redirect over the left or the right jump towards you. So the dog has to take the jump and come back to you. Again, you don't know that one, which side it is, until the steward says left jump command or right jump command. So it's combined. There's no retrieve part in there yet. In class 3, you have that as well. But in class 2, it's round the cone, stop, and then redirect over a jump. Distance control is more distance, and a stand comes into the whole pattern of the DC. And recall is with a stop. So it's not just a straightforward recall to you. It's recall, stop halfway. That used to be just a stand, but I believe it can now be. They changed the rules quite a lot. I believe it can now be a stand or a down. Again, you get told that in the morning. And scent.
that's actually the only one that's kind of new in class 2. Difference to KC, it's different. It's a different article. It's like a little wooden stick, like I'd say 10 centimeters long. It's like, it is a wooden stick, and it's always, even in the highest class, the handler scent, so your own scent. The steward puts all the other ones out with just their hand, so all the others are decoys kind of thing, but it's just the steward's scent and yours, and the dog has to always find and retrieve yours. So that comes in as well.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then you have 2 minutes down stay, out of sight. So in class 1 it's sit, in class 2 it's down.
I think it's really good that the stays then. I mean, I do miss this. I kind of miss the stays, but I don't miss the stays. So I thought they were really good. I mean, I did my CD. I lived in New Zealand and I did my CD out there. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, it was good fun out there. And like that, we did like a 10-minute out of sight down stay, and you stand stay and you sit stay. But in obedience, they were just a drag, because I used to do a lot of stay stewarding, and you'd have like 30 dogs in a stay, and it was always a nightmare to organise, get everybody there, organise classes, get everybody where they needed to be, and stewarding it, trying to steward it was just a nightmare. And you'd have dogs jumping on each other.
Yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah. So, but I think it's good to have the stays in there, because I think it's a good discipline to train.
It is, and it's because it's organised in that way. There's a maximum of 6 dogs in the ring at the same time. So if they have more than 6 dogs in the class, you just have more groups to do stays. So it just doesn't feel as intimidating when you have. I remember when I was competing in ticket with Leah, and you had to leave your dog, first long sit and then 10 minutes down in a group of 60 dogs. Because at the time when I competed with Leah, Obedience was actually really popular, KC Obedience. So it was big classes. It was so scary. You just didn't want to leave your dog in that sort of environment. So, I also think stays aren't necessarily bad, but the way that they used to run it at KC shows, it was quite scary. It was, it was not very safe.
Dangerous.
But yeah, it's good. It's good that they are part of FCI. I think so too.
Yeah, no, that's great. And this dumbbell direction, I've heard.
Oh yes, I forgot.
I've heard about that. I'm a gun dog trainer, Anna, so I do gun dogs.
I see.
When Ross told me about it, and he said about the 3 dumbbell retrieves.
Yes.
That's just gun dog training with a bit of
listen, so in class 2, I just forgot that exercise. I knew I would forget one. In class 2, the directed retrieve is a combination of heel work and retrieving. So you basically set your dog up. It's always, by the way, marked. So all your setup points are very easy to find, even for the steward. There's either a bit of chalk spray on the ground, or you have an actual marker on the ground. So it's always easy to find, because the distances have to be set, right? So you set up your dog. You have nothing in front of you. There's no dumbbells on the ground when you set up. 15 meters from your setup point to the line of the dumbbells, the steward walks across you and places 2 dumbbells. They're 10 meters apart. So from the line you're stood on, or for the point you stood on, you're looking exactly at like halfway point between those dumbbells.
Okay.
The steward then tells you to walk forward, right? So you do your heel work almost to that line of those dumbbells, about turn. Okay, so you walk away from that line, and then you give a stand cue. So position under march, right? So you give the stand, dog stands, you carry on walking a few steps, and then about turn and halt. So at that moment, you're looking at your dog. Your dog's like 3 to 5 meters away from you, and the dumbbells are behind the dog, one to the left and one to the right. Okay, and then the steward says left or right dumbbell command, and you send. That is in class 2. Can I carry on with class 3? Because that's when it gets exciting.
Yeah, because I wanted to know about that, because I thought, that's just a split retrieve. That's to go back on a split retrieve.
Yeah, that's easy. Right, listen,
nice.
Listeners, hold on. Right.
Let's go harder.
Right, in class 3, this exercise is honestly so cool. So, again, you set your dog up. That time, it's 20 meters between you and the line of the dumbbells.
Yeah.
The steward walks across, places this time 3 dumbbells. So 1 to the right and 1 literally in front of you, but 20 meters away. and then a third one to the left. Okay, so there's a line of dumbbells. You then, on the steward's command, send your dog, and the dog is required to run in a straight line to the middle dumbbell. Mm-hmm. If the straight line isn't straight, you'd lose marks. And of course, then the direction, the next part of the exercise might be tricky depending on which dumbbell you are supposed to send your dog to. So the idea is you send your dog towards somehow the middle dumbbell, okay? Stop them anywhere between the halfway point and the middle dumbbell, all again marked, yeah? So you stop the dog, and the dog must almost stop facing you on the line, which of course requires quite a lot of skills, and it depends also on the size. But ideally, the dog stands on this straight line to the middle dumbbell facing you at that point. Then the steward tells you, so you don't know which dumbbell it is until now, then the steward tells you left, middle, or right dumbbell command, and you send the dog, hopefully to the right one. That is a cool exercise.
It is
really cool.
It's something that I do in gun dog training a lot.
See, I told you, it's a lot of things that some people from gun dog go, oh, I can do that, or work and try to go, oh, we can do that. Or agility people going around the cone, easy.
No, I like the sound of that. That sounds really good.
It's really fun. And the box, the square in class 3 is also a directional send. So you send the dog to basically into nothing. It's called a blind point. It's not supposed to be visible for the dog. It literally is into nothing. Mm-hmm. Normally they do sort of like mark it on the ground with a bit of chalk spray so that you can see it, because you need to know when to stop the dog. But it is nothing that's visible for the dog. Mm-hmm. You send them 10-meter point, stop them, and then on the steward's command, you redirect them into the box, which is 90 degrees to the left or the right, 25 meters away. So the blind point send is really cool. Again, a lot of gun dog people would have already told me, that's easy. We can send our dogs into nothing. I'm like, great. You can start some FCI Obedience then. Fantastic.
Yeah, we do that a lot. Blind retrieves, send them in the blind. The arenas must be huge that you're competing in.
They are quite huge. I mean, in the rules, it's fun enough. It says suggested, so the size is always suggested, which makes it a lot easier for us at the minute, because it means we can have smaller rings and still offer some competitions. But in class 3, the ring, to be able to fit all that in, they have to be 40 by 20 meters. Outdoor competitions. That's what the FCI suggests, 40 by 20. So it's quite big.
Is it always outdoor?
Not necessarily. It depends on the country. Like in Finland, they have quite a lot of indoor competitions, because obviously in winter time they can't go outside. They have a lot of really great training halls, and they are quite big. In a lot of countries, even some competitions have, some world championships have been indoors. Like, those big dressage riding halls, they are big enough. They're normally like 60 by 30. In Denmark, a few years ago, the world champs were in one of those riding halls. In Spain as well. So they can be indoors.
Cool. And what are you doing now, bringing it like with the UK then? Because obviously you're like kind of the sort of forerunner for FCI in the UK, aren't you?
Well, I have to say, for the last 4 years, it's been quite a bit of a challenge, really. I've felt like nothing was really happening, and it, people just they enjoyed it when they did it, but it wasn't ever really taken off. And for the last year, that has changed massively. And I think it's been a combination of me just, being quite persistent and just trying and doing whatever I can. But also I have a fantastic team of people now who love the sport, number one, and who, help me promote it. And for me, I've always just done my job on my own, and it's so nice to have a team now. And it's just so much easier bouncing ideas off each other, and they have fantastic ideas, and I can go, you do that then? And they're like, yeah, I do it. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't have to do it myself. So it's a whole combination of all of that. And I think, we have a Facebook group. It's called FCI Obedience UK. There's so many people on there now, and they post videos of their training and ask questions, and people are very helpful. And I've done a few Zoom sessions for free just to give people some knowledge about the sport and to suggest how to train things. And people have gone and trained it, and then they post some videos on Facebook, and it's just so brilliant. And there's a lot in the planning now. We're planning to run a competition in August down south here near Portsmouth, one of them, and then one near in Essex somewhere. I need to actually find out the exact details of that. It will be published this week. So that's exciting. People have something to train towards, which of course motivates them. Last weekend, just gone, we had 2 instructors here from Finland running a seminar, which again, it was so popular. People loved it. It was a 3-day thing, only FCI. And again, we had people who, compete or train for IGP, some work and trials people, some KC, agility, loads of different dogs and breeds. It was fantastic. So, of course, it might have helped for me to last year when I was supposed to compete at the World Champs. I thought, if I compete, maybe that helps to get it going in the UK. And then, of course, we couldn't. So for me, it was, quite disappointing from that perspective. But I didn't need it. It literally now it seems to be taken off. I think it's just a lot of different things that now come together, to be fair.
That's cool. And you just said about having a lot of different breeds doing it. I mean, is it very much like, KC, where it's just border collie after border collie after border collie, or do you see different dogs in different countries and stuff?
I mean, to be honest, World Championships, there is mostly border collies. There is golden retrievers. It's been Malinois, Australian Shepherd. There has even been a Yorkshire Terrier a couple of years ago. So even there, even though it's mostly border collies, but it's different breeds. In the classes on a national level, like if you go, like no matter where really in Europe, you have lots of different breeds. Like one of my good friends in Germany, she has a Bernese Mountain Dog, and they did some of the qualifications for the World Championship team, nearly got in. There's a lot of retrievers. So a lot of gun dogs really who do it. Just because, like you said, Les, it suits some of them, these exercises really suit them. Like there's lots of retrieving, lots of sending. They don't have to be, even though most of them are, but they don't have to be super speedy. They can be fast and consistently fast, but it's not necessary for them to be like super speedy and quick and tight. So I think that the sport allows different breeds and different types of dogs really, which is quite nice. I'm going to try and keep that.
Isn't it?
Is there a register? So do you know how with the KC you do the sport and dog register, and do you have to do that? Do you have to register your dog to compete?
You will have to, yes. Obviously, yeah. With the KC, the activity register, it will be different. So what we're planning to do is building up in like 2 ways. One way is offering some special classes and have a go classes at KC Obedience shows, which is what the KC suggested, which of course is amazing that they are, it was their idea, and we're now collecting shows that would have the space for us, because like we said, we need quite a bit of space, and a lot of them are very willing and they're very interested. So that's kind of like in the making. And for those have a go classes, I have stripped down the class 1 a little bit to make it slightly easier in some ways, so that people, can just have a go. Mm-hmm. So, for example, there's no 1 minute sit stay. There is a 30-second stay as part of their round. So only one dog in the ring, 30 seconds where the handler just leaves the dog on a sit and then returns. There's a couple of little changes like that. And for those have a go classes, people will get a worksheet that we've designed that they can download on the Kennel Club website soon, or on our website, and they can bring it to the KC shows where we have these FCI sort of mock competitions and get like ticked off. It's like a little worksheet. But the official workbook that you need to be able to compete abroad, and also to be able to put your results in, or have someone do that at a show, at an official show. Those workbooks are in the making right now. They will have to be endorsed by the Kennel Club, but we are just designing them right now. And then if people want to compete at an actual show like the one in August, or abroad, if someone can do that, they will need to get one of these booklets, pay a small fee, like a membership fee. We're just creating or starting up our own club, licensed club, FCI Obedience UK. So you can order those through us. and then you get like a membership number that will be on the top of your workbook, and that's yours that you can take to competitions. And you do have to take it to competitions in FCI Obedience. You have to, hand it in the morning.
Like the logbook, because I know the Kennel Club have done one. I can't remember what it's called now, but it is like it's like a logbook, isn't it? If you of your classes, because you can go through
wins or points
now, can't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's pretty. It's not new, but it's new. And if you obviously go to the classes on wins, you don't have to carry any paperwork with you. So that's something for people to get used to, because you have to actually, for FCI, you have to hand them in the morning, and then the show organizer puts your results and your points in there. The judge signs it, and then you get it returned after the competition. So it's a bit different.
Is it all done on points, Anna?
It's all done on points, yes.
Okay.
It's all done on points. And you need a qualifying score for the next class. You don't need to win it, which is also quite nice.
Right, okay. So it's almost like a trial rather than a competition, almost. Because like the CD, both me and Ross have done CD, although your CD was different than my CD, wasn't it? My CD, I did my CD in New Zealand, so it was on American Kennel Club rules.
Oh, okay.
And it was more of it was more obedience trial. Like there was no jumps, but there was, examine the dog. The judge examines the dog at like 20 paces away from the handler in a stand. And
oh my God, wow.
I know I failed on that the first time because I had a very waggy-tailed Labrador. and then you have to stop the dog on a recall, and you have your scent circle and retrieve and all of that lot, but no jumps. And so that was the American Kennel Club CD, but Ross, you did your CD and there was jumps, wasn't it? So yours is more like a working trial rather than an obedience trial, wasn't it? When you did CD.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit like bits of elements of like FCI Obedience, isn't there? So quite similar, dumbbell retrieve and, the scent work and all the rest of it. It's quite, but the thing, I think FCI Obedience is really attractive because you don't have like a 6-foot scale, do you? And it's not so repetitive. Like the other dog sports, like IGP and all that, like the BH and stuff. It's just like learning a pattern. It's just dull as ditch water, isn't it? Whereas you don't know what, which dumbbell you're going to be sent for and all that. It's quite
that's I think, because when I do my gun dog training, like by the time you get to do your direction control, you've done a fair bit of training. You've done like normally the dogs. I won't do lefts and rights until the dogs are over a year old, just to protect the cruciate ligaments. And that to me is when I'm really gun dog training. So it's when you're sending your dog out and you're stopping it and redirecting it. It's like, now I'm training. It's really good. Love it.
FCI Obedience is quite nice because we often recommend to clients, to do some kind of breed specific kind of activity like gun dog training if you've got a gun dog breed. Actually, FCI Obedience, that if you don't want to get involved in sort of the gun dog training, then actually that's a nice outlet for the breeds, isn't it?
It is. It combines it all, and it is it is a great sport, I think, for, like you said, gun dogs, because of all these elements that you just said, Les. There's a lot in there, and it's almost like FCI combines quite a few different sports, but you don't have some of the really challenging things in there. Those breed specific or very like IGP specific challenges, and there is so much detail to train. But it's you can get a really nice score with a good enough round, because you collect your points. Like the higher the better. It's the other way around to KC. You collect your points, and the way it's laid out is that even if one exercise is failed for whatever reason, the dog can't do it yet, or it's just got distracted, whatever, you can still, if the rest is good enough, get a qualifying score. So, it works to the dog's advantages. You don't have to be great at everything, especially in the lower classes, to get a qualifying score, and you have time to sort of build up to that, which I think is really nice. Because from my experience with KC, if your dog has not good enough heel work, it's all about heel work, which, I love heel work, so fine. But if your heel work isn't good enough, you never, ever win, because it's all about heel work. And yes, you, of course, can win out on points over time now. That's new, which is nice. But in my opinion, having a sport that allows more variety of exercises also allows more variety of dog personalities and breeds, because there's something for everyone.
Because sorry, Ross, go on.
Go on. So I was just going to say, do you have to qualify in different areas, like working trials? You've got certain points in control and agility, certain points in obedience, certain amount of points in scent, and if you don't get enough points in each section, you can't qualify. But do you have that, or it's just an overall whole thing?
Yeah, it's an overall. I mean, of course, it depends. Like, if you have a 0 in scent, so if the dog brings back the wrong stick in scent, that's a 0, so it's failed. If all the other exercises are good enough, and 10 is the highest score, okay, so 10 is highest score, and then 0 the lowest. If in all the other exercises you get between 8 and 10 points, you are still going to get a qualifying score. Yeah, and you can still, if that will happen in class 2, you can still qualify for class 3. Of course, your aim should always be to get some points in every exercise, but it's happened to me. It just happens. It's a quick one, isn't it? And then, you lost that exercise, but it doesn't mean that the whole round is lost.
And how do you lose marks? Like, so that's like, for example, that scent stick thing. If the dog goes out and brings back your scent, the article with your scent on it, whatever, is that just a guaranteed 10, or you get points for kind of style and whether the dog mouths it or drops it or how long it took to pick it up or whatever?
Yes, all of them. So you lose points if the dog mouths it. You lose points if the dog anticipates, so if the dog goes before the command. You lose points if the dog leaves the area or searches for too long. Whereas in KC, there is not really a time limit. In FCI and scent, they want the dog to almost only go over the correct stick once, ideally, and then pick it up. Speed of return and speed out is important, and presenting it in the correct way. So whether it's in front or on the left, nice and straight, waiting for the release. So all these things are also important. And you can lose like half a mark if the dog chops it on the return. So that all still, applies. But, exercises, for example, like the box, the square, the dog has to end up inside it. You lose points if the dog doesn't run straight. So if they go into the box from the side, you lose points. If the dog isn't completely in the box with one of their 4 paws, it's a 0 though. Right? So that's the main thing to sort of train, is for the dog to get into the box. Yeah, so there's a couple of things that you might lose half a mark for, but you still get good points. And then there is like retrieving the wrong stick, not ending up inside the box. It's a 0 for the exercise. Retrieving the wrong dumbbell on the directive retrieve is a 0.
Yeah.
Yeah, but bring in the correct one, even if it's messy, like chomp chomp and whatever, you might still get some points. But obviously, if it's the wrong one, it's a 0.
And when you just mentioned about a Yorkshire Terrier competing, so presumably it's open to all breeds, and then therefore the jump height varies, the dumbbells vary, and all the rest of it. So any breed can compete and enter.
Exactly. So the jump height goes up to 60, but it depends on the dog's height, like shoulder withers, and it just goes down all the way, I think, to 10 or 20. So the Yorkshire Terrier had to do like a little jump. The dumbbell size, there's normally on each competition, and you can bring your own as well, by the way. Even in class 3, you can bring your own dumbbells. They just must look the same, and they must be wooden in class 3 for this directive retrieve. But the show organizer has to provide 3 different sets of dumbbells, so one for the bigger breeds, a medium, and a small, that you can use as a handler, but you are allowed to bring your own anyway, which most people, to be fair, do. Even at the World Championships, you can bring your own dumbbells. So the only thing with FCI Obedience is, and of course it's because it's FCI Obedience, it has to be a breed. The dogs have to be a breed, as in like an FCI registered breed. But that, yes, hold on, because I know that's always a bit of and I totally get it, because I've got a working sheepdog down there as well. He would not be able to compete at the World Champs. It only applies for international championships. So all the classes here in the UK, class 1, class 2, class 3, any crossbreed can compete. Okay, anyone, any dog. It's only if you're aiming to compete at the World Championships and you have a crossbreed or a dog that's not an FCI registered breed, then you cannot.
Okay, what about docked? What about docked dogs?
They have had a massive thing about that recently, like I believe everywhere in the world. And as far as I'm concerned, there is exceptions, but generally ears and tail is a no-no. Unless it is, and this is something I don't know much about, Les, to be fair, because obviously it's not really my sort of area, but there is a couple of ifs in there, and I don't ask me about the ifs. We need to look those up.
Okay.
But I think the docking the tail and the ears there was a lot of discussions about that over the last year, and I actually don't know exactly the outcome, to be honest with you.
Okay, because we can still dock dogs in the UK under veterinary license, for the working breeds.
Yes.
But docking's completely illegal. But the kennel, there's a guy at club and he's got a cracking little working cocker. And he would have made it to the Scotland team, but he couldn't because his dog was docked and he's not allowed to compete at Crufts.
Oh, so even at Crufts, all right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. In the UK, even showing, you're not allowed to show a docked dog.
Oh.
You can't show a dog anywhere where people pay money to attend.
Wow.
You're not allowed to have a docked dog.
We can show legally docked dogs.
Not if people are paying to attend, you can't.
If people are paying to it, well, we do it like the British Rottweiler Association. We in the breed we can have a docked dog that's imported.
Yeah.
People pay to attend. They pay to enter, obviously, but they don't pay to attend the event.
Yeah, I know it's if a paid event. If people are like, if you've got spectators paying to attend the event, and you cannot have a docked dog in it.
Ooh.
Okay. Wow.
Which is really frustrating because this little dog was docked. It wasn't docked, it was amputated because it got an infected tail. No exceptions.
But even no exceptions. So even with like a veterinary whatever, no. Okay. I would need to look into that, to be fair. I know it says a lot about changes in appearance. Yeah, but there will definitely be rules about it because there of course is. But yes, that's something we need to look into.
Yeah, just because there's still a lot of docking because legally you can dock a dog under 5 days old and you get a veterinary certificate to say it's a working line.
So here, luckily I found it really, really quickly. It's interesting. It does say, it's really short as well. I'm just going to read it out quickly. Dogs with docked tails or cropped ears, or ones that have had some other changes in appearance made for cosmetic reasons, are admitted only in accordance with the legal regulations of the dog's home country and those of the country where the trial is arranged.
Okay, interesting. That's a good get
so,
out.
It is a good get out. But that's what I meant earlier about the FCI rules. They make a lot of suggestions and then they leave it to the countries to decide, which is quite cool because that means we can make it up now.
Mm.
Yeah, no, it's good. Cool.
But yeah, so I guess it depends on the country and
definitely something to bear in mind if, like for Crufts, if you've got people doing demos at Crufts and you've got people they need to make sure they don't have a docked tail because they won't be eligible.
Yeah, I'm thinking as we speak if there is one in my team, but yeah, I would definitely bear that in mind.
Watch out for it.
In mind. Yeah.
So just finally, Anna, where can people go if they want to find out more about FCI Obedience, more about you, whatever? Where's the best place to go? So
the best place at the minute is definitely social media. It's either Instagram, my business page is Anna Herzog Dog Sports Academy. And we also have a FCI Obedience UK account on Instagram. So those two on Instagram. And on Facebook, it's a closed group that's called FCI Obedience UK. But it's easy to find and there's a lot of information in there. Over the next year or so, we're planning to, I'm going to say branch out a little bit on like a personal level so that there will be different training sort of spots all over the UK. Because of course, at the minute, it's just down here near Portsmouth, where I am. Where we train regularly and run all these seminars. But we are currently working out a way of getting more trainers certified to actually teach FCI obedience over the country. Just because otherwise it's going to be tricky if I'm just down here. People from Scotland are not necessarily going to want to travel every week down here.
No.
No. So that is in the making. Right now, I'd say social media. We're planning. We've got a really cool merchandise now, hoodies, t-shirts. So it's all growing. It's hopefully going to flood the country, and there will be lots of opportunities to train very soon.
Cool.
Great. That's really good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good luck. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot, Anna.
Talk to you soon. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. It's not just gun dogs and not just guard dogs, but all things canine, as we hope you have discovered. Please like, share and subscribe and help us spread a bit of common sense back into dog ownership. And a review wouldn't go amiss either. Catch up with Les and Ross again in about 14 days for more canine conversations. Until next time, stay well and enjoy your dogs. Any dog-related questions or topics, just drop an email to talk@cfba.uk or message us via facebook.com/gundogs and guard dogs podcast.